Pixar movie rankings, they're everywhere, and they're a nightmare. Everyone loves Pixar movies, they all just love them differently. And when they express that, everyone in the comments loves them differently, and everyone fights and argues and just starts yelling at each other. It's horrible. So instead of just throwing my opinions out there and doing my own ranking, I'm just some guy, I decided to get to the bottom of this. I ran an experiment. In my spare time, I gathered 457 publicly available rankings of Pixar movies, whether they be from critics, from magazines, news outlets, letterbox data, Twitter users, TikTokers, YouTubers, podcasts, tier lists, everyday viewers, and I compiled all of these rankings into a spreadsheet. I've had a lot of time on my hands. I averaged the scores for all 29 Pixar films to create the most thorough, data-driven, scientific Pixar ranking possible to settle this. And I was very broad with the rankings that I chose and sourced because I didn't want it to just be a bunch of film bro, letterboxed, armchair film critic internet opinions, I wanted moms, I wanted kids, I wanted to find rankings that were in languages I don't even speak, and I especially wanted to hear from everyday casual viewers to get the most objective, final, true ranking that everyone will agree on because it's scientific, right? No one's gonna argue in the comments, right? These are facts. Can't argue with facts. All of this, mind you, without any aid from AI programs. This is just purely me losing my mind. Ground rules, I only included rankings from the last 2 years. Pixar has released 29 feature films. They have a 30th coming out in the spring of this year called Hoppers. And not everyone has seen all 29 movies, which could really skew the averages. So if a ranking has 5 or more movies omitted, I did not include those. If people order the films in order of release date on their tier lists, I don't include those. You'll see some gaps on my spreadsheets. After a while, I started to include top 10 lists. So I'll reveal the scientific list, and I'll shortly summarize the public's opinions on all those movies, and I will be purely objective. I won't let my own personal opinion get out. Although I did make my own ranking, it is hidden in the spreadsheet somewhere. I wanted the hot takes. I wanted to hear it all. So alright, let's read the lists. No one argue. I don't want to see the same hacky TikTok comments I've had to look at for months. I love facts and data and spreadsheets. In 29th place is Lightyear, with an average score of 24.535. Lightyear is Pixar's attempted sci-fi epic Toy Story spin-off movie. It was also their first theatrical release since before the pandemic, and the film bombed at the box office and generally did not resonate with audiences, despite a promising concept and hype. My YouTube audience knows this one for being generally mid and disappointing. Their grandparents know it because ladies kiss in it. The film is applauded for being a Pixar attempt at a straightforward sci-fi, for its interstellar inspiration, for its fantastic production design, for its emotional hook. The first 10 minutes of this movie are actually very compelling, and for its meaningful LGBTQ representation. The film is disliked for its confusing concept, mishandling of a beloved character in Buzz Lightyear, weak characters, Marvel movie humor, and, well, for its meaningful LGBTQ representation. This is meant to be the film that Andy watched in 1995 that made him want a Buzz Lightyear toy, and audiences do not buy that, as the film is dull and thoroughly from 2022. Politics clouded this movie's opinion with many, of course, but to most viewers, this was just a frustrating, high-concept experiment that theoretically had success written all over it, that ultimately fell flat. Something Pixar had that they thought was really special. In 28th place is The Good Dinosaur, with an average score of 23.651. This is somehow simultaneously both the strangest movie on this whole list, and also the most forgotten original movie on the whole list. The tech demo comparison gets brought up frequently regarding The Good Dinosaur, and audiences agree that that is an apt description. This is not really a passion project, it's more like just the product of years of production turmoil that was just released. Director Pete Sohn gets a lot of flack unreasonably, I think. The movie gets praise for those aforementioned breathtaking landscapes, for its introspective personal story, proving that you don't necessarily need a large cast or ensemble. I can count on my fingers the number of speaking characters in this movie. However, the film is criticized for who some consider to be an annoying protagonist, for cartoony characters that clash with the photorealistic world, and for not really taking advantage of its own compelling concept, that being, what if the meteor missed the Earth and the dinosaurs lived among humans? Nonetheless, the film's supporters are few, but devoted. The coming-of-age story endures and resonated with many, and that, to me, makes it a story well told. In 27th place is Cars 2, with an average score of 21.937. This is Pixar's 12th film after an unprecedented run of beloved classics, and it's really the first time audiences had to process Pixar releasing a film widely considered bad. And I always figured it would remain a hated movie. But I visited my alma mater recently, and the generation that grew up with Cars 2 loves Cars 2. So this renewed nostalgia only makes Cars 2 the third worst Pixar movie. The Cars franchise is just generally met with indifference from the public, but if you only read the comments under these rankings, you'd think Cars 2 is the greatest movie of all time. That's all anyone can comment about. The film is praised for its well-choreographed, thrilling action, for its amazing racing sequences, for Michael Giacchino's spy guitar score, and for the beautiful depictions of the international settings that they go to. The film is criticized for its drastic spy film 180 from the first Cars, for its complicated conspiracy, for the confounding expansion to the world building that raises more questions than answers. That's all anyone wants to talk about. And chiefly for its shift to Mater as a protagonist, who many viewers find to be an insufferable hack, who gets constantly rewarded for his recklessness. There's no denying that this was a very meaningful film to a lot of boys with the ability to leave comments on the internet, but those boys never bothered making their own rankings, so they just said, Cars 2 is peak 100 million times. In 26th place is Elio with an average score of 20.899. This is Pixar's latest movie, and by all accounts, it was just the wrong movie at the wrong time. A combination of weak marketing, trite concept, boy meets aliens, and all the fatigue and discourse over the quote-unquote bean mouth art style made Elio dead on arrival. The film's supporters praise its sincere portrayal of loneliness. They often interpret Elio as having ADHD, for strong visuals and for an exciting climax, but the film is criticized for its kiddie tone, its kiddie design, a familiar plot, and for the aforementioned frustration with the character design that kind of extends to the humor of the movie. I found in my research that the film performed better with women overall, and it's worth saying Elio's not hated at all. It's not even bad. It just didn't widely stick. Audiences seem to want something different from Pixar, and their next film, Hoppers, looks to be just that. Like The Good Dinosaur, Elio was the result of a troubled production and new directors doing the best they could given the circumstances. But rest assured, I think this will be the last of the Pixar bean-mouth personal stories that were never quite embraced. In 25th place is Brave with an average score of 20.884. This is a product from Pixar's very early Bob Iger era. And with Brave, this was their attempt at a classic Disney-style fairy tale, which is funny considering Pixar branded itself so long as being the anti-Disney fairy tale studio. Their Pixar twist was that Merida is a modern heroine. She's an athletic archer and she wants to shoot for her own hand. The film is praised for its breathtaking depiction of the Scottish Highlands, lochs, and woods, for its Celtic score by Patrick Doyle, and for that incredible sequence of Merida going through with shooting for her own hand. The film is criticized for the disappointingly predictable plot following that shooting scene, for its second and third acts, for its mother-daughter conflict and reconciliation being done better in other films, and perhaps being in the wrong hands, for some misplaced humor, and for some say, not quite being the feminist triumph Pixar thinks it is. Ultimately, Pixar is better off being the anti-Disney fairy tale studio. This isn't something they needed to try to crack. In 24th place is... not gonna do that. Cars 3 with an average score of 19.496. Eschewing any and all events and continuity from Cars 2, Cars 3 returns the limelight and scope to what people loved so much about that first Cars, Lightning McQueen and his character growth. Some consider it the best Cars movie, the one that ultimately has something to say. Many others, like with the other Cars films, are just fatigued with the franchise and may just be ranking it so low in bad faith. However, I was surprised to see so many people rank it high, some even higher than the original Cars. Like Toy Story 3, Cars 3 heightens the drama with a time jump and characters having to face the music and accept a big change in your life. The film is praised for its message of aging and mentorship, for its thrilling races, and for being a welcome return to form after Cars 2 went so off the rails. The film is criticized for feeling unnecessary. Many audiences would have just preferred an original Pixar movie, especially at the time of its release. And unfortunately, like the first film, boring audiences with its slower pace and more predictable outcome. It reminds audiences of sports movies they've seen before. In 23rd place is... I'll do it. Turning Red with an average score of 19.18. This is easily the most divisive film in this whole list. Oh my god! Everything from the art style to the humor to the family dynamics and the cultural and personal specificity to the point of autobiography, it's all sparked a debate, for better or worse. I'd say this one also showed the sharpest generational split amongst fans and detractors. Millennial optimism, BuzzFeed types tend to consider this one of Pixar's greatest triumphs, a victory for representation, and ardently rank it high, while Gen Z brainrot types tend to find it just cringe and fervently rank it low. And anyone older than that is like, well, what the hell? But honestly, most viewers landed somewhere in the middle of that, saying, it's fine, it's just not for me. The film is praised for its confident handling of sensitive topics. Everything from Chinese family expectations to puberty and menstruation is brought up. For its beautiful depiction of Toronto and its Chinatown, for its complete out-of-pocket character expressions and reactions, and for just being unashamedly girly, dorky, and preteen. It's kind of refreshing. The film is criticized for those aforementioned bean-mouth, chunky character designs, love it or hate it humor, and a representation of adolescence and an air that some find just unrelatable and cringy. I'm very curious to see how Turning Red ages. It's definitely the most unique film Pixar's ever made, and if they ever manage to make something as bold, funny, cringe, controversial, or beautiful again, I'm here for it, and a lot of other people seem to be too. In 22nd place is Finding Dory with an average score of 18.692. You'll find the trend in 2010 sequels to Pixar classics of being big blockbuster movies and breaking box office records, and then after that, leaving little to no lasting impact on the culture like the original movies. So in the case of Finding Dory, one of Pixar's best performing movies is now one of its least talked about. Pixar learned its lesson from Cars 2, and with Dory it played it safe and did its job. It meaningfully expanded on the limited lore of Finding Nemo, with a similar emotional punch and fantastic underwater atmosphere to boot. But in retrospect, was this necessary? The film is praised for its thoughtful expansion of Dory beyond being a comic character, for its thoughtful, subtle commentary on living with disability, for its humor, and for its beautiful depiction of the Central California coast and aquarium environments. The Septopus character Hank and those sea lions are standout characters. The film is criticized for tying itself so tightly to Dory, whose short-term memory shtick and delivery can become tiresome after a while, for new characters that are funny but ultimately forgettable, and for its cuckoo, crazy, climactic truck chase, and for the cynicism and undeniability that the film was only made for big box office returns. With many finding the film to be a fun time, but also a waste of time. Many viewers always summed it up with, like Dory, I forgot about this one. In 21st place is Onward, with an average score of 18.548. A lot of people have not seen this one. If you haven't, Onward is Pixar's stab at a suburban fantasy story. It's a world of elves and goblins, but they drive cars and live in subdivisions. But what's more intriguing is the hook. Two teen elf brothers are given the chance to magically bring their late father back for a day. The film is praised for its great depiction of brotherhood, for its commentary on family figures and how that role can change over time, and for its deeply moving ending. The film, though, is criticized for what surrounds all that, for a pretty generic road trip plot, world building that feels more DreamWorks than it does Pixar, for celebrity stunt casting, who admittedly do a great job, and for pointless side plots and detours. It certainly has its fans. Fantasy and D&D fans particularly seem to like this one. It's a fine film that gets some Pixar highs right, but mostly could be from any other studio, and that's not why we come to Pixar. Alright, we've now entered the top 20. We're crawling to the cream of the crop. We're on our way. 20th place is Elemental, with an average score of 18.431. A sleeper hit in 2023, Elemental was initially declared a bomb when it underperformed on its opening weekend, but it slowly grew and grew to eventually not only turn a profit, but to become a hit for the year. This one was hit from cynicism from its announcement, from the premise to the design. It felt more Pixar parody than Pixar proper. He was a water boy. She was a fire girl. They fell in love. That's not at all how it was marketed, though. Weak, sneaky marketing that hid the fact that this was a rom-com did not properly prime audiences on what to expect. The film is praised for its thoughtful depiction of the American immigrant experience, for its spectacular visual effects, for Thomas Newman's amazing score paired with beautiful visuals, and for its compelling and honestly adorable romance. The film is criticized for its shaky world building, for its incessant puns, for its low stakes, and perceptively retreading much of what Disney's Zootopia did already, with world design and racial commentary. I think Elemental ranks so low in a lot of these lists in part because of those negative early impressions. This one released at a bad time for audience trust in Pixar. Viewers who ranked Elemental high find it to be classic Pixar, a little punny, a little annoying, but amidst these current stories about children that audiences feel are for children, Pixar drops a beautiful grown-up romance out of nowhere. The film steadily grew and grew in cinemas to become a hit, and I think over time it'll rise on people's rankings higher and higher, too. In 19th place is Toy Story 4, with an average score of 18.357. People are mad at this one for just existing. The odds were always going to be stacked against it because it is an arrogant film for them to make. Toy Story 3 was seen as this perfect, beautiful ending in everyone's minds. Okay, well, not quite everyone's minds.
They said, is there going to be a Toy Story 4? And I said, yeah, I think so.
Since Toy Story 3, people have been asking, where's Toy Story 4? So if you're going to continue this, by all means, closed story, it better be worth audiences' time and hearts. Toy Story 4 is praised by many for thoughtfully expanding whatever is left in Woody to develop and wringing out more engaging conflict. For introspection, this is probably the most introspective Toy Story film since 2. For bringing back a character as beloved and tied to Woody as Bo Peep in a meaningful way. For its new characters who are praised for their shtick and their charm. The movie was critiqued, again, for its arrogance, for its unnecessary, for new characters that some found were only shtick and were charmless, and for ultimately changing things about these characters that audiences felt were core to those characters. Plot points and events that unfold in the film don't sit right with certain fans who followed these toys since the beginning, and it's also become increasingly popular online to dunk on this one. And many impressionable internet users have a hard time seeing past certain criticisms. So ultimately, all those feelings place Toy Story 4 this low in the rankings. In 18th place is Incredibles 2, with an average score of 17.543. There was a 14-year gap between Incredibles movies. And like with Finding Dory, Incredibles 2 was a blockbuster, it broke records, but it's had little influence and staying power unlike the predecessor, which has only become more of a classic with time. You know, it looked and sounded the part of an Incredibles sequel, which is what people were begging for, but in the intervening years since its release, it's been held to more scrutiny, especially in online spaces. General audiences remember this movie fondly as a good time. They especially love Jack Jack, and that raccoon fight was the breakout scene of the movie. The film is praised for its sharp Brad Bird script, for its stellar vocal performances, for its comedy, for some of the best shot and choreographed action you'll see in film. The character of Jack Jack, again. The film is criticized for flanderization of its characters, an unsatisfying plot, a letdown of a villain, for leaning further into sitcom comedy than the first film, which was more dramatic, and for not meaningfully upping the ante or raising the bar that the first film had in place. It backpedals and retreads much of the progress of that first film. That first Incredibles was lightning in a bottle, and despite the 14-year wait for a second movie, audiences generally feel like it's fine. It could have used more time, though. Gotta move this out of the way so I can do my drums. In 17th place is A Bug's Life, with an average score of 16.674. As of uploading, A Bug's Life turns 28 this year, and as Pixar's second film, it was revered, and I say was, because as the Pixar classics piled on, A Bug's Life has now found a legacy as an obscurity, an antique of an older Pixar era. Many rankings from younger viewers don't really know what to make of this one, or they were just kind of bored by it. And of course, it is beloved by those who grew up with it, but not enough to place it higher than 17th. A Bug's Life is praised for its rich, memorable ensemble, a very well-cast ensemble at that, for its humor, for its grand Randy Newman Western score, for its high-stakes drama despite the minusculity of its world, for its political message that many viewers find prescient, and for its villain, Hopper, who many still consider one of the best, most intimidating Pixar villains.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
The film is criticized for an ensemble that may be needlessly large, for Flick not being the strongest or most memorable protagonist, for a cute but not necessarily intriguing world, and for having a more quaint, slow story compared to Pixar films that would follow. In 16th place is Luca, with an average score of 16.47. This is Pixar's attempt at a cozy, breezy, Studio Ghibli sorta summer movie. And I say attempt, some viewers don't think it hits that mark. Luca is praised for its adorable world and character design, easily the best application of the now maligned bean-mouth art style, for its beautiful, colorful depiction of the Cinque Terre and the waters beneath, for depicting a quaint, lived-in 1950s Italy that just feels so real, for its depiction of outcasts in a society that many viewers found cathartic and relatable. The film is criticized for its character design, not everyone agrees, for its low stakes and small story overall, for humor and voice delivery that's maybe more generic kids movie than what you'd see at Pixar, or Ghibli for that matter, and for overall just feeling more kiddie than other Pixar films. Pro tip, for an elevated Luca viewing experience, when you put it on Disney Plus, go to the settings, change the language to Italian, keep English subtitles or whatever language you speak, and you'll feel like you're watching a real, authentic, cute little foreign Italian or Ghibli movie. Yeah, thank me later. Alright, we have now reached number 15 on the list. If you're keeping track, the next movie is squarely in the middle of all of these Pixar movies. Perfect middle ground. Pixar, take your guesses what movie it'll be. Number 15 is Monsters University, with an average score of 15.481. This is a curious relic from Pixar's early sequel days. You can tell Disney was pushing for more sequels to Pixar classics because they're profitable, and Pixar's thinking must have been, alright, if we're gonna do sequels, we'll do something crazy with them to be different, because we're Pixar. And so Cars got a spy movie sequel, strangely, and Monsters got a college movie prequel, strangely. Like Cars 2, people were indifferent towards University for a very long time. It now has a vocal fan base that confines themselves to comments. Monsters University is praised for its fun new characters, for its clever expansion of the world building, like the science of scaring is fun to see, for twisting our expectations for Mike and Sully's characters, and for its harsh, deeply resonant message, which kind of runs counter to other Pixar and Disney messages. That being that no matter how hard you dream or try for something, that doesn't guarantee success. And that resonated with a lot of especially younger viewers. The film was criticized for new characters that are less memorable, for sticking too closely to familiar college movie tropes and structure, and it'll just always warrant comparison to Monsters, Inc., which is just stronger thematically, comedically, and emotionally. Nonetheless, University enjoys a very vocal, devoted following, and is comfortable in the middle of the scientific Pixar movie ranking. Alright, in 14th place, we have... See if you recognize that score. It's Inside Out 2 with an average score of 13.331. This is the first sequel to a more modern, original Pixar IP, and many agree that Inside Out was probably the most warranted for a sequel. The film did very well, and this one really had staying power in the culture thanks to great performances and strong new characters. Inside Out 2 is praised for its clever, poignant depiction of the emotion anxiety as a character, for its clever expanding of the mind into other new emotions, and for continuing to explore nuance and acceptance of quote-unquote bad emotions, like anxiety, or making those emotions easier to talk about for audiences and for kids. And it just effortlessly picks up where the last Inside Out ended, making this a natural, warranted continuation of that first film. Any critique that this one has honestly runs parallel to the first Inside Out. You know, the emotion characters can come off as one note, the humor doesn't land for everyone, and some find its message of acceptance obvious. Some say that the plot retreads maybe a little too closely to the first film. However you felt about the first Inside Out, you will most likely feel the same way about Inside Out 2. In 13th place is... Alright, no one's going to recognize the score. It's Soul, with an average score of 13.32. Some viewers say that watching Soul just rocked their life. It just shook them to their core. Others found its message quite obvious, and the path to get there somewhat trite. This film is praised for the ethereal, abstract beauty that it presents through visuals and sound in The Great Before and The Great Beyond. The Jerrys are standouts. I don't know how they animated that. The film is praised for its gritty, artful depiction of New York City, and for its absolute affinity for jazz music and artists, and for a rich, endearing protagonist in Joe Gardner. You really want to see that guy succeed. The movie's biggest fans genuinely got existential euphoria out of watching this, and catharsis in not knowing our purpose, but enjoying the little things. The film is criticized for its decision to straddle itself with a body swap plot, which really slows the movie down and makes its outcome predictable. The nihilism of the character 22 draws thin after a while. The movie's maybe a little too lofty with its goals of exploring the meaning of life. One ranking I found said Soul is too deep for them. However you interpret that. And for all its big, grown-up ambition, it's trapped in being a modern Disney animated movie, with all the tropes, expectations, and gags that come out of that. Overall, audiences find Soul solid, a great watch experience, and just high enough in the list to end up on most people's good side. In 12th place is... I'm not going to do soundtracks anymore. Cars, with an average score of 13.03. Cars is classic. It's really easy to be cynical about how toyetic and sprawling it's become as a franchise, but it's so quaint to see where it came from. This small-town sports movie about community. People are very indifferent towards the Cars movies, but I found that with time, in general, people have really come around and have started to admire the first Cars. The film is praised for its iconic soundtrack, its funny, thoughtful script, its nicely designed, memorable characters, poignant commentary on urban decay, And for its heart, this is a love letter to every aspect of the automobile. Even if you're not interested in cars, there's much to enjoy. The film to this day is criticized for weaker characters than we expect from Pixar, running the gambit from annoying to stereotypical, a less endearing protagonist in Lightning McQueen, a less creative world, and a more predictable Hallmark movie plot that suggests its resolution from the start. Nonetheless, Cars has cemented itself as an American classic, and it continues to climb up people's rankings with time. In 11th place is Up, with an average score of 10.122. Up has long been considered one of Pixar's crowning achievements. Critics and journalists and magazines all tended to list Up in their top 3. It was a lot of number ones. Audiences, however, have somewhat softened on it over time, landing it at 11th here, very close to the top 10, but not quite making it. A typical critics score versus audience score kind of thing. The prevailing consensus is that opening 10 minutes, the married life scene, is such a gut punch. It's beautiful and devastating and just one of the most iconic first acts in cinema. And everything after that kind of falls apart and is just a lesser experience overall. Up is praised for its dramatic, phenomenal opening 10 minutes, for its rich, complex characters, and its sweeping Michael Giacchino score that just begs for adventure and a waltz. The film is criticized for taking its plot in such a wacky screwball direction, and especially nowadays not having as much kick or substance beyond that very moving opening. Up is a movie that everyone should experience, though. Being in the upper middle section of this list, people's opinions clearly run the gambit, and that alone makes it interesting. And it is such a surprising first watch, and I think it continues to charm every time. We've now entered the top 10. The top 10 of 29 movies, the cream of the crop, the best of the best. Okay, well, I'll say best of the best for top 5. In 10th place, the 10th scientifically proven best Pixar movie is Inside Out, with an average score of 9.735. Inside Out is a modern Pixar classic, and it's firmly earned its spot in the top 10. A lot of journalists and publications usually put it at their top 3. It's number 1 in a lot of critics' books, and audiences love it too, enough to get it in the top 10. Inside Out is praised for its originality, for its clever writing and world building of Inside the Mind, for stellar voice performances by comedic greats, for its tender handling of growing up and the things you have to let go of. Bing Bong is the standout character here, he steals the show, and for revolutionizing the way that kids process and open up about their emotion. Inside Out is criticized for humor and performances that don't land for everyone, for a message that some see as heavy-handed, that it's okay to be sad sometimes, for joy and sadness to sometimes be difficult characters to root for, and for the emotion characters to come off as one note. You know, anger is angry, fear is afraid. Audiences like Riley. They like her emotions, and they clearly want to see more of them as Riley grows up. In 9th place, Coco, with an average score of 9.464. An explosion of color, culture, and song, Coco is the newest Pixar film to break the top 10. Coco is widely praised for its phenomenal songs, both the sung songs and the theatrical score, its love for all things Mexico that Mexican audiences have truly embraced, for its rich characters, expansive world, enrapturing mystery, twists at every turn. Coco 2 has big zapatos to fill, dude. The film, if anything, is criticized for songs that are now so ingrained in the culture that some viewers might find them annoying. Call it the let it go effect. Some find its emotional scenes a little manipulative. They're trying to do Married Life from Up again. Some find Miguel's family too cruel. And I'm sure there are some racists out there that ranked it low. But Coco remains one of Pixar's most vibrant and emotionally resonant films, a real, breakthrough movie during their sequel phase. And its place in the top 10 reflects just how strongly it connected with audiences everywhere. In 8th place, it's supposed to be the Finding Nemo theme. Finding Nemo, with an average score of 8.605. Finding Nemo is a grand ocean adventure that still thrills audiences. The film is praised for its sharp script, for its great vocal deliveries across the board, for its thrilling, epic journey across the sea and the immersive marine worlds within, and its broad depiction of all things aquatic. Got light coral reef waters, deep blue, open ocean, murky green, industrial shore water. Every shot in this film, from the visuals to the Tom Newman score, is just so atmospheric, and you can't help but root for these characters. The film is criticized for some finding the character of Dory grating after a while, and for there just being less overall to sink your teeth into as an adult than other movies that are higher on this list. Still, Finding Nemo does the impossible. It makes audience deeply care and cry over fish, enough to put this over a bunch of human movies. In 7th place, we find Toy Story 2, with an average score of 7.638. Many consider this the best Toy Story film, and I saw it in plenty of people's top 3. It does just barely make 7th place here, but that's only because the movies ahead of it are also so strong. Toy Story 2 is still considered one of Pixar's greatest efforts and payoffs. The film is praised for meaningfully raising the stakes from the first Toy Story, recognizing there's a ticking clock for a toy's usefulness as children age, and that drama further endears Woody as a character. It makes his conflict so much more engaging to watch. It balances that heady philosophy of a toy's purpose and legacy with Woody's plot, with a grand, wacky Indiana Jones adventure for Buzz and the rest of the gang. It introduces complex, strong characters in Jessie and the Roundup Gang. You can't imagine Toy Story without Jessie now. And it accomplished what very few sequels at its time usually could do. It thoughtfully developed the world of that film and did not retread the first film at all. The film is criticized for maybe losing its focus a little with the Buzz silliness, and Toy Story 2 is only this low because Toy Story 3 would eventually up the ante to an even bigger extent. As it stands, Toy Story 2 remains one of the Pixar greats and a perfect tonal bridge between the first and third Toy Stories. In 6th place is WALL-E, with an average score of 7.413. The only Pixar film to ever receive a Criterion release, WALL-E is widely regarded as one of the studio's greatest achievements. It blends silent film physicality with environmental storytelling, both about the environment and greatly using the physical environment. It remains one of the sweetest and most poignant love stories that Pixar's ever told. The film is praised for these bold creative choices, minimal dialogue, a willingness to be bleak, and for its dark humor, for its pointed commentary on humanity and overconsumption that I don't know if Disney was even comfortable distributing. WALL-E himself is just timelessly charming, from his design to his mannerisms to his adorable, gentle romance with Eve. And the Axiom's captain has the most human story of them all. You really want to root for us to come back home. The film is criticized for that limited robot dialogue. Some viewers find it difficult to sustain a whole film with that, for being maybe a little too on the nose with the environmental commentary, and for a first half on Earth and a second half on the spaceship that are a little too tonally disjointed for some audiences, with many preferring the quiet art film portion on Earth. Either way, WALL-E is a distinctly Andrew Stanton classic. We've now entered the top 5. This is the best of the best. You can't beat this. These are the golden movies. Anything before this was nothing. These are the facts. In 5th place is Toy Story 3, with an average score of 7.346. This was billed and written to be the long-awaited reunion and epic finale for the Toy Story characters and series. It takes some of Pixar's boldest risks and delivers a thoughtful, thrilling, and emotionally satisfying ending to Woody, Buzz, and the rest of the gang's life with Andy. The film is praised for those bold decisions, setting the movie in a time jump and aging the characters, showing the full emotional impact of the system they can't control. There's such a finality and weight to every decision and every character interaction here, and it takes itself as seriously as it should, while also being one of the most fun Pixar movies. The performances are wonderful, and all the new characters offer hilarity and complexity The 11 years between films also shows graphically, as this was the best looking Toy Story film. The film is criticized for maybe coming off as emotionally manipulative, with a near death and a goodbye so close back to back. Pixar knows how much these characters mean to us, and maybe the script is a bit clunky to get from place to place. Ultimately, Toy Story 3 is a grand achievement. How many 3 movies can be this good? In 4th place, we have Ratatouille, with an average score of 7.308. Ratatouille is a perennial favorite, and it's only become more beloved with time. And it's the kind of film I truly don't feel they'll ever really be able to capture again. Made almost guerrilla style outside of typical studio oversight, it's an indie miracle. It's an ode to the arts, culinary expression, discoveries to be made!
You lost me again.
And still, the film works well for all ages while offering grown-up sophistication. The film is praised for its passionate Brad Bird script, its fantastic direction, production design, Michael Giacchino's flavorful score, surprisingly complex characters, a grown-up tone balanced perfectly with timeless physical comedy, and an enduring message. Criticisms are minor. Some viewers can't stomach 2 hours of seeing rats in a kitchen, and the Gusteau's son inheritance subplot feels kind of abrupt. Still, Ratatouille endures as arguably the finest food movie ever made, and many chefs and artists of all discipline turn to it for inspiration. Alright, we've now entered the top 3. The top 3 of 29 movies. The top 5 are the best of the best. The top 3 are the best of the best of the best of the best. Starting with number 3, Toy Story, with an average score of 7.172. So many people's rankings when it came to Toy Story and sharing their thoughts. They all started with the one that started it all. And yeah, it is. It's Pixar's first film, and it's ranked so high by many viewers and journalists, part out of reverence and part out of awe that they were able to hit such a great home run on their very first go. Toy Story is praised for its wit and humor that stands up even today. Every line is iconic. For its expansion of the concept of toys coming to life. Not a new or unique concept, but they were able to do it in such a 90s grown-up comedy way. For its hilarious vocal performances, for its groundbreaking use of CGI. The film is criticized, well, for its groundbreaking use of CGI, especially today. People love talking about how strange and dated the visuals can be. Plot inconsistencies with Buzz's selective awareness, and modern audiences underwhelmed by the smaller scale and stakes compared to later films. Later Toy Story movies especially would heighten the drama. This is far more of a strict comedy. But overall, Toy Story is beloved. It set the groundwork for all the other films on this list. It is easily the most important film here, and as evidenced by its number 3 spot, it's still one of the most enduringly enjoyable. In 2nd place, we have Monsters, Inc. with an average score of 7.064. What do you want me to say? It's Monsters, Inc., man. Monsters, Inc. is classic. It is classic Pixar. The characters, the humor, the heart, the world, the clever twist on something we were all certain of at one point, that there are monsters in our closet. This is all the Pixar greats going full steam ahead on what's ultimately their most creative film. Monsters, Inc. is praised for all of the above, for the tender relationship of Sully and Boo, for the laugh riot that is Mike Wazowski, for the hilarious performances across the board, the jazzy Randy Newman score, the roller coaster adventure of trying to get this cute little girl home. Criticisms are very minimal. Some cynical viewers note that Mike and Sully could have got rid of Boo a lot sooner, then we'd have no movie. But overall, it consistently ranks near the top, to put it in 2nd place. A few fans prefer Monsters University, but all audiences agree that Monsters, Inc. is a good time. That one's sticking around. Ladies and gentlemen, number 1. A scientifically proven number 1, factual, objective, highest rated, most beloved Pixar film goes to The Incredibles, 6.136. There will never be another Incredibles. There's a 2, there's gonna be a 3, but like Ratatouille, that first Incredibles is just lightning in a bottle. The right artists, the right animators, the right writer-director, the right executives to allow it to happen. The stars aligned for this perfect family action movie to slip through the cracks. The stakes are big, the personalities are bigger, the drama is high, and the laughs are deep. This is one of the most influential action movies ever, and it's an animated film. This is also the most auteur Pixar film. Brad Bird is all over the place, and audiences, whether they even know the guy, are so happy that this movie got to turn out the way it did. The Incredibles is distinct amongst Pixar's films. It's very mature, from the subject matter to the writing. It's very smart, sure of itself, very human, very hard to animate then and now. It's got real-world stakes and takes itself seriously. But it's also not afraid to just have fun. Memorable characters, imaginative superpowers, a stylish James Bond world, and thrilling, building kinetic energy make this one super enjoyable to come back to. The only critiques this one really gets are graphical. It's an old movie, you know, but considering the time and scale of the film, the final result is very impressive. The Incredibles was in first place since I started this spreadsheet. No matter how many numbers I'd add to the spreadsheet, it was always first place, and I hope Pixar continues to take away the right lessons from this one. So there you have it. The facts. No one in the audience can be mad at me. This was very thorough, very fun to research, and please let me know in the comments your rankings because, again, Hoppers is coming out and I'm gonna have to keep updating this. Where does Hoppers land in the ranking? How do people's opinions of these movies keep changing over time? Can you support me on Patreon, please? I'd like that a lot. Also, like and comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and this content. I'd like to do more YouTube in the new year. I've also been interested in trying this out for other studios, you know? I have other spreadsheets secretly in development, so if this does well, I might try it for somebody else. A huge shout out to my patron, Odd Dog Warrior. If you would like a shout out at the end of the video and exclusive perks and early access to my YouTube content, feel free to support me on Patreon. Link is in the description.